Hello learners, welcome to Try Right. Today, let's break down the concept of array declaration, initialization, and traversal in Java with examples to understand them clearly. In Java, arrays are objects that stores multiple values of the same type. The declaration. For declaration of an array, we have the data type of array followed by the open close square bracket and then the name of the array as shown here. Yeah, the data type is followed by the open and close square braces followed by the array name or data type followed by the array name or at the end the open close square bracket. In this both way the declaration can be done. Now comes to the initialization. The initialization of an array can be done in several ways. The static initialization or the dynamic initialization. Here we can see that int is the data type of the array and the open and close bracket followed by the array name, or string. Here string is the data type of the array and name is the array name and the open or close square bracket. Now for the initialization we have the static or dynamic way. Static in static initialization. The flow, we know the fixed number of data. We know fixed number of data that can be assigned, and it goes as follows. Fixed number of data or the data we know that can be fixed number of data or the data we know can be assigned to this array named as numbers. This is the integer data type of array, and it can be assigned as the follows: the curly brace having all the datas, within the curly brace all the datas are there. Now come the dynamic way. To create the default values static, the memory space. Here we create array and make it dynamic. We have to initialize it. We have to initialize it with different array having a memory location. We will give it a memory allocation and the quantity of the data. Here the default values are integers and 0 for integers. Here the default values are integers and they are 0 for integers. Suppose for example here number 0. Initially it was having a 0 value. Now when assigned with a dynamic way, its value is finally can be given as 10. Similarly here in 1, the initial value was 0. Now we have assigned the value to be 20. Now traversal of an array. To access or process array elements, we need to traverse them. To access and process the element array, we need to traverse them so as to access them, which can be done using loops. So this access of the elements can be done using loops. It can be done using for loop as follows. For going from initial start of the array value is initial start of the array point is 0, and it will go up till length, total number of data, total numbers dot length. This is the method. Here it is a method, as it will give the total array length. And then initial I plus plus means moving to the for the next element or data. For the next element, system.out println numbers of I, number square bracket close square open and close square braces followed by the number I, which is within that. This will give the ith number of data. This value will give the ith number of data. Or it can be done using enhanced for loop. There is the first method is a for loop going through the for loop way. Other is the enhanced for loop way. Here for loop for each element of the array. Here we are using enhanced for loop for each element of the array. We are using enhanced for loop. Here we are using enhanced for loop for each elements of an array. For int number, for a number, for int number, initial number, suppose initial number or any number that is present in the numbers array, system dot out dot println that number int number, it should be int num. If that number belongs to that array, print that number here. For int number that data type, if it belongs to the numbers array, then print that number. Yeah, now suppose for here, now here using while loop, how does we can access the elements using the while loop. While if the condition goes as, if the initial I is 0, initial length is 0, initial length or point is initial length or starting point of the data is 0. Yeah, if the initial length, if the total length or initial length is less than numbers dot length matlab total array length, numbers array length, student dot out dot println number I means ith number element, and then I plus plus, it will move to the next element. Similarly, now we have got to know each and everything about the different array declarations, its traversal, and the different process we can go through all these values. Now let's do program for our clarification. Let's do program for declaration, initialization, and traversal of an array. Create a program for the declaration, initialization, and traversal of array. Yeah, I've already created the program. You can see that for the array, let's make the array name as array example. Here this is the main line of Java main method. And for the declaration and initialization, for the declaration and initialization, we are writing the integer. It is integer array, integer data type array, followed by the close bracket, followed by the open and close square braces, followed by the array name, followed by the array name numbers. Here the array name is numbers, and within the curly brace we are giving the data 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, which is the data which we are giving. Now we want to print each array element. For this we are using for loop here. Yeah, the initial point is 0, initial length is 0, and the length and the value of I goes less than equal to numbers dot length. This will give the total length of the array. Numbers dot length, this will give the length of the array, plus I plus plus means moving to the next, for the next data. And we are finally printing, initially we are printing the system.out.println numbers I, which will give the ith number data. For example, element at index 0, like was the way we have written here, the element at index ith position means first position, 0th position, and then the numbers of I. Index at element at index 0, and the numbers of I must number 0 is equals 10. Yeah, here the 0th element is 10. Similarly, for moving forward, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 comes out. And for the traversal, for getting each element, for doing the various operations, we have written the statement using for loop, and for this traversal we are using for each loop here. If the numbers belong to the numbers array, system.out.println element plus num. If the numbers belong to this element array, it will be printed. Numbers which belongs to this element are printed here, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Yeah. Now calculate and display the sum and average of elements of an array. Now second question, calculate and display the sum and average of elements of an array. Calculate and display the sum and average of elements of an array. Yeah, very well, we can see that sum and average. Here also we have assigned the element as 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Here also the elements are same. Declaration of the initialization of the elements are done here. And let's take the variable sum equals 0, int sum equals 0. For adding all these integers value, we are taking the additional value as additional data type variable as integer only. and sum which is having the value 0, which is having the value 0. For average, we are having the data type as double, because why? The average can come in decimal point. For that, we are taking it as double. Now, using the for loop, using for each loop, using for loop, for each loop, using for each loop, using a for each loop, using a for each loop, for each, we are using for each loop here. For each loop, sum. Here the short way of writing sum equals sum plus sum equals sum equals sum plus num. Here finally we are using, this is the shorthand way. See, this is the shorthand way of writing this statement, and we are finally calculating the total summation of all the numbers. Summation, if the initial value is 0, total summation will be coming as a total summation value. Yeah, for this we are taking the sum as 0. In the beginning we have taken sum as 0, and finally adding all the values, it will be here stored here in the same value sum. Yeah, giving us the correct value. Now we are calculating the average. For average, we are moving to average equals double of sum by numbers dot name, sum total sum which is coming here, sum divided by numbers dot length, total sum divided by numbers dot length, total length sum. For finding the average, we are giving total sum by numbers dot length. Finding the here the different outputs are as follows: system dot out different sum of the elements, and average of the element. So uh, for this value, sum of the elements come as 150, and the average of the element come as 30. Average of the element come as 30. Now let's move to the next point. Add two matrices and print the result. Add two matrices and print the result. Add two matrices and print the result. For this, we will be checking the two matrices. We will be checking the value of two matrices. The first matrix, which contains the value 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. First matrix. We are taking 2D matrix, which can be given as two square braces. One square braces followed by a second square braces. The first is a first. Here it will contain the rows. Here it will contain the rows and column. The first square braces shows the number of rows, and second square braces shows number of columns. Yeah. So here we are giving it in dynamic way. So we are assigning all the values, initializing all the values as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in the second we are taking 7, 8, 9, and 10, 11, 12. And for this matrix, so we can see that here we are taking 2, 3, 2, 3, means number of rows equal to 2 and number of columns equal to, the first shows the number of rows and second shows the number of columns. Similarly, moving for the traversals to this array, we will be taking for int j I equals 0, I less than matrix 1 dot length I plus plus. And now we have the two matrix, 2D matrix. For this we will be needing the loops, two loops, one loop inside other loop. Yeah. The inner loop, this is the inner loop, j int j equals 0, j less than equal to matrix 1 dot 0 length j plus plus. Yeah. And now we will be going for the different addition values. Matrix I of j, ij means first I and j. First I will go from 0 to length, and then j will start from 0 to length. And then here the matrix 2 I, similarly it will go from I initial 0 until the end length, and j will go from the initial length to end length. Yeah. For finding the sum, print the result matrix. Yeah. For finding the sum, these are the values, and we are adding for adding these both elements, both arrays elements, if they are equal, then only it can be added, and the addition can be performed here only. Now we are printing the matrix result. Now when added, this matrix will have a result. And it's printed here. For this we will have the 2D matrix as also, because when a 2D matrix is added, a value the same, the value comes as 2D matrix only. So for the traversal of this zeroth starting point of the element to the end point, yeah, zeroth element to the end point length 0, 0, I equals 0, I less than equal to I less than, not equal to, because it's starting from 0, 0th element, so it should be less than element. Yeah. So 0th position minus 0th position, 0 less than sum dot length sum I plus plus, and j equals start from 0, j less than sum of 0 to length and j plus plus. System dot out of print I of j. And now for the movement to the next line. For this we are doing for the movement of the next line. Suppose for going through this matrix, 1 is 7, 7 plus 1 equals 8, and 8 plus 2 equals 10, 9, 9 plus 3 equals 12. Similarly, these values also come as it is shown here. So we have got to know the array and different operations which can be performed in the array, its declaration, its initialization and traversal. Thanks now.